Hey, I'm Ross Campbell, welcome to my channel. Now, out of all the guitar players that I follow on Instagram, John Mayer's feed is perhaps the most interesting of the lot. His guitar videos are, well, they're buried between memes and more memes. But anyway, the few guitar videos that he has uploaded are absolute gold, and you can learn a lot from them if you just put in the effort to study them. Now today, I'm going to show you what I learned personally from watching a live stream that John did on Instagram, I guess last year. Now, because it was a live stream, you probably won't be able to find this on his actual Instagram feed, but someone has heroically uploaded the half-hour-long clip to YouTube for us to continue enjoying. In this clip, John is at home, he's practicing, he's improvising over 3 different blues backing tracks that he found on Spotify. And the third one that he plays over is this slow blues in the key of D. Now at this point in the video, there's a lot of really interesting improvisation happening, but what stood out to me the most was this absolutely filthy blues lick that he plays around 20 minutes into the video. And here's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's just a D.
I'm going to show you exactly how to play this lick with tab and notation and break down the main concepts behind the lick. And by the way, those include sixths, mixolydian, combining major and minor pentatonic scales, and something that I like to call the mixolydian triad pair. Now we'll get to all of that in good time, but first, here is the lick at 2 different tempos. Very cool lick. It seems like John's having a lot of fun when he's practicing at home, and as he mentions in this video, he often likes to see just how far he can push the boundaries of his improvisation, which often results in these crazy kind of unhinged licks. This lick isn't something I could ever see myself playing just off the cuff in my own improvisation. I cannot imagine thinking, what about if I tried this and then playing something like that? But as I often say, that's why it's fun, and that's why it's important to not only listen to the players that you admire, but to study their material, to study their improvisation, to study their solos in an effort to absorb even just the tiniest little bit of their magic. So without further ado, let's break this lick down into sections. Here's the first part to learn. These notes are based out of the D mixolydian mode. You start with a slide from 3 to 4 on the D string, and that is the note F sharp, which is the major third in D mixolydian. 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to pick fret 3 on the B string, which is the root of the scale, it's the note D. Now those first 2 notes are what you would call a sixth, and that is because they are 6 notes apart, as you'll hear if I play from F sharp to D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'll often use sixths in my playing when I'm playing in country, blues, and rock styles. Real quick before we go any further with this lesson, I hope you guys are enjoying it so far, and if you get to the end of the video and think, that was cool, but I'd like to learn some more, check out bulletproofguitarplayer.com, linked in the description, where I've just added bonus material based on this specific John Mayer blues lesson to the extras section of the website, which is subscription based. When you sign up for a monthly or annual payment plan, you get full access to all site content, and this includes both parts 1 and 2 of Bulletproof Guitar Player, my original online guitar courses that are a combined 8-hour-long guide to music theory for guitar players. So I'll teach you exactly how to apply relevant music theory concepts and techniques to the fretboard. And those 2 courses will be very beneficial to those of you that might not already have a good understanding of music theory but are keen to learn and implement it to become better players. And it will also be beneficial to those of you who might have learned music theory years ago but are looking for a refresher. Now, you'll also gain access to the extras section of the site where I've just uploaded the bonus material based on this lesson. And the cool thing about this part of the website is that more content is going to be added to it every single month. So the value of your subscription will constantly grow month by month at no additional cost to you. That's all linked in the description box below. So I'll let you get back to the lesson now. And the other notes in this part of the lick are again part of D mixolydian. Now here's what D mixolydian looks like in this area of the fretboard. If you want to learn more about mixolydian and how to improvise with it, you can check out my online courses, which are linked in the description box below. But let's now move on to part 2 of the lick, which goes like this. Slide from 3 to 4 on the D string. Again, this is into the major third of D. 1, 2, 3. And be sure to play the note at fret 3, which is where the slide starts. Be sure to be playing that as a grace note, so it's only heard for a very short period of time, just as you slide into fret 4. And then pick 2 on the G string with an upstroke, followed by 4 and pull off to 2 on the D string with another upstroke. So that's up, up. Now John plays this part of the lick using that classic blues rake technique, which is where you rake your pick over multiple strings at one time in one direction. So we're going up. So we have 2 upstrokes, which are kind of raking with our pick. But you could take this a step further and add in dead notes from the high E and B strings as well, and start from there. So to achieve that, you're going to have to mute correctly with your fretting hand. You'll have to have your index finger resting on those strings but not fretting them, so that they don't sound out as notes but rather dead notes. But again, that's just optional. You can absolutely start it from fret 2 on the G string as the tab is displaying if you choose to do it that way. And then as I just demonstrated there, as I just played, to finish that part of the lick, you're going to pick 5 on the A string and pull off to 2, and 5 on the low E. Now that whole part of the lick is pretty much entirely D major pentatonic based. So here's the position for that scale in this area of the fretboard. You can hear that he's descending that position of the D major pentatonic scale. And I'm pointing this out because it's quite interesting what happens in the next part of the lick. John switches to a minor pentatonic and blues scale based phrase, which goes like this. That's about as simple a blues phrase as you could play on guitar. He's literally just descending the D blues scale, starting on the root of the scale and ending on the flat third. But that's not to say it doesn't sound awesome in this context, because it does, especially since it comes immediately after a phrase that was entirely major pentatonic scale based. So that fast switch in tonality from strictly major pentatonic to minor, the minor part being the blues scale phrase, it's a clever move by John because it catches your ear. And I've talked at length about the relationship between these two scales on my YouTube channel in the past, the relationship between the major pentatonic scale and the minor pentatonic scale. And I've gone in depth on the subject in my online courses, but a basic explanation of what I'm getting at here is that when you combine major pentatonic scales and minor pentatonic scales with the same root note, for example, D major pentatonic combined with D minor pentatonic, when you combine those two scales, you get something that is very close to the scale formula for the mixolydian mode. Now, there's only one note in the minor pentatonic scale that doesn't occur naturally in the mixolydian mode, but still, it's very close. When you combine major pentatonic and minor pentatonic scales with the same root note, you get something that is very close to the mixolydian mode. Now, I actually have a video on my channel that you can of course watch for free. It's called the mixolydian pentatonic relationship. So if you want a real introduction to this subject, then go and watch that video. Let's move on to part 4, which goes like this. John is playing a motif here, a sort of repeating phrase that he moves up the fretboard. He starts by sliding into a note and then picking a note that's a minor third higher than that note on the following string. The first one slides into 5 on the low E, and then after that you pick 3 on the A string. Now this is working out of position 3 of the D minor pentatonic. After that, he takes those 2 notes and moves them up by 2 frets. So you're starting on fret 7 on the low E. Now this puts you in D major pentatonic once again. So once again, we have another fast switch in tonality, this time from minor pentatonic to major pentatonic. We started with minor pentatonic here, and when we move up, we're now in the major pentatonic. Then he takes that same phrase and applies it to 2 different places in this position of the D major pentatonic scale. The first of which starts on fret 9 on the A string. So you slide into fret 9, then pick 7 on the D, then do the exact same thing but 1 string over. So you're going to start by sliding into fret 9 on the D string this time, and picking 7 on the G. Okay, let's go over that part of the lick one more time, and then we'll move on to the next part. Actually, before we do move on, I just want to touch on how John actually executes this part of the lick, because he's not just approaching it gently, he's not gently sliding into those notes. He's really, if you watch the video, you'll see that he's really loading up and slamming into each of those slides. And that gives it a lot more feel, I think. If I were to play it just normally without any slides, it sounds quite boring. It sounds very amateurish. When you add slides in, it starts to get a bit more interesting. And then when you go full throttle the way that John does in the Instagram live stream, sounds pretty badass. It adds a lot of passion to that part of the lick. Okay, now let's move on to the following part. Now this is the last part of the lick, and I think it's the most interesting from a melodic standpoint. What John is doing here is essentially moving from a C major triad to a D major triad. At the start of this video, I mentioned that one of the concepts used in this lick was something that I like to call the mixolydian triad pair. And this is a concept I explained in a lot of detail in my most recent lesson on Joe Bonamassa. I was talking about something that he played in an Instagram clip of his own. And in that video I explain how if you build triads from each of the degrees in the mixolydian mode, you'll find that you have 3 major triads within mixolydian, 2 of which are a tone apart. Now the 2 major triads in mixolydian that are a tone apart from each other are built from the root and the flat 7th of the scale. So here's D mixolydian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I build a triad from the first note, the root note, it's going to be a D major triad. If I build a triad from the 7th note in mixolydian, from the flat 7th in mixolydian, which is a note C, it's going to be a C major triad. So there you can hear we have 2 major triads, one built from the root, which in this key is D major, and one built from the flat 7th, which is C major in this key. 2 major triads that are a tone apart, one built from the root and one built from the flat 7th. That's something that is unique to the mixolydian mode. It's a really cool improvisational tool that I use all the time whenever I'm playing country, blues, or rock solos. John uses it in a very creative way here. He uses the same first inversion major triad on the first string set to play both the C and D major triads. You can see I'm just taking the same triad shape for C major and then moving it up by 2 frets to play D major. But he doesn't play them in a bland, just merely arpeggiated way. He adds in some passing notes between the 2 triads. Now, the passing notes are at fret 10 on the G and 9 on the B. And all they are is just taking the 3rd and 5th in that C major triad, so the notes of the triad that are on the G and B strings, just taking them and moving them up by 1 fret. And sort of sandwiching them in between the C and D major triads. So that's all that's really happening there. There's no complex melodic explanation for it. He's just adding some tension by taking the 3rd and 5th of the triad and moving them up by 1 fret, before resolving to the D major triad, which again is the major triad built from the root of mixolydian. Now, as you've probably noticed, when he gets to that D major triad, he doesn't exactly play a D major triad. He doesn't play that, he just plays the 3rd and the root note. So he's leaving out the 5th. Now, what is that? Think back to the start of the lick, which started with a 6th. Same exact idea here. So again, rather than playing a D major triad, he just plays the 3rd and the root note, resulting in a 6th. Then to finish the lick, he just plays this bluesy pull-off thing in position 1 of the D minor pentatonic. So that's 13 and pull off to 10 on the B, and then 10 on the G. Here's the lick in full one more time. Before I wrap this video up and leave you to practice, I want to show you one other way of playing the same lick. Now, whenever I learn something new, whenever I write a new lick myself, I like to figure out multiple ways of playing it in different areas of the fretboard, because for me personally, that is what I would consider to be the biggest advantage of learning the notes of the fretboard, learning your scales in all positions and in all keys. Same goes for triads. It's the freedom to improvise and execute your melodic ideas anywhere on the fretboard, in any key, at any time. I really struggled with being able to do that for several years. It wasn't really until I started studying guitar at university 6 or 7 years ago now that I started to put in the effort to really learn my instrument, to really learn the fretboard itself. And as I said, that's a huge advantage that you get when you do that. It's the ability, the freedom to execute your ideas on the spot as you hear them in your head. So here's that same lick played an octave higher for the most part. The triads at the end will be in the same octave as the first version of the lick, but just played on a different string set. Here's the first part. Here's part 2. Part 3. Part 4. And the final part. So what did we learn from studying this John Mayer lick? Well, how to use sixths in a blues solo, switching between major and minor pentatonic scales with the same root note. Again, this relates to the mixolydian mode. Using repeating motifs to take a melodic idea and develop it and take it further up the fretboard. And using the mixolydian triad pair in creative ways and adding in passing notes between the two triads. As I mentioned earlier, you can find bonus material based on this lesson in the extras section of bulletproofguitarplayer.com. This includes the backing track, tab sheets, and additional licks that use similar concepts. In a way, this is kind of like my own personal Patreon, and I'm really excited to be adding new content to it for you guys every single month. So you can check that out via the link in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and share it. That helps push it out to more guitar players who might benefit from seeing this lesson. Please also click the subscribe button if you're not subscribed already, and click that notifications bell if you want to be notified as soon as I upload a new video. Thank you again for watching. My name's Ross Campbell, and I'll see you in the next one.